So I've been thinking a lot over the last couple of weeks about grading companies. And a lot of these thoughts came out of a couple of videos that I did where I talked about some things that CGC was doing that potentially could have some impact on other grading companies like CBCS and PGX, probably to a lesser extent. And there was a lot of discussion on the channel, on other channels about grading companies, the differences between them, pros and cons. And it started me thinking. And what I was thinking about was not necessarily what makes one grading company better than another or any of that kind of stuff. What I started thinking about is what makes for a good grading company. And I wrote out a list, and it turned out to be a long list of things that I wanted to kind of highlight would make a grading company a great grading company. And as I looked at that list, I started to force myself to trim the list back. And I started to ask myself some very difficult questions about what was really important to me in a grading company. You know, one of the things that I thought about was that maybe a grading company should be centrally located in the US, right? Near like a major hub, for example. So Memphis is an area that has a FedEx distribution hub right there. So that place is kind of centrally located. You have all the FedEx planes that are coming in there. It might make sense to have a grading company located there, or Houston or Atlanta, which are all, you know, major hubs for transportation. And as I thought about that, I'm like, is that really important? I don't know. I thought about grading services, raw grading services, which is something that CBCS actually offers. And I started asking myself whether that was really a critical service for what would make a grading company great. So I continued to refine the list, and I forced myself to identify 5 things, only 5 things that I think could make for a great grading company. And I want to list those things off for you. And then I want to see, does my list look like your list? And this isn't about us arguing. It's more about forcing ourselves to really make some hard decisions and asking ourselves some really difficult questions as to what do you really need from a grading company. So with that said, we're going to jump into this, and we are going to look at my list of 5 things that make for a great grading service. I hope you enjoy this video. Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to continue a debate that we've been having around grading companies. Specifically, we are going to dig into what might make for a great grading company. We are not going to do the laundry list of the 100 things to make the perfect grading company, right? We're not going to do that because we are never going to get the perfect grading company. The question is, what are the services? What are the features and benefits that could make for a pretty solid grading company? And then we can ask ourselves whether the grading companies we have now are coming close to meeting those needs, or if there's an opportunity for another company to come along that gets us a little bit closer to the things that we all say are important to us. So there's 5 things. We are going to run down the list. And as you hear these things, keep a list of your own and ask yourself, is this important to you or is it not? And at the end, put up a note in the comment section kind of identifying what your 5 things are. And I would encourage you to not try to cobble things together, right? Because you could string together 3 or 4 ideas and call it a single idea. But I would ask you to kind of parse it out, break it out, and let's look at the specific items that would make for a great grading company. So the first thing that I've identified that I think is core and foundational for any grading company is transparency in grading, and grading that is consistent with the Overstreet standard. To me, that is the foundation, right? Can you grade in a manner that is consistent with Overstreet? And is there transparency? Is it easy for me to understand how you graded this book a 9 or a 7 or whatever it is? Can I see it? Can I understand it? And are you consistent over time with how you're looking at one book versus another book? That to me is the cornerstone of any great grading company. So the second item on my list is a superior slab that offers protection in the form of 3 things: UV, chemical, and physical protection for the comic book. To me, this is important, right? You can argue all day that CGC slab is better or worse than CBCS, and the same thing with PGX. But to my knowledge, none of those slabs offer UV protection. And I'm not sure whether you can't do UV protection in a plastic, but it would be awesome if someone could figure it out. We have all seen the damage that comes with light, with sunlight hitting a comic book over time. And it would be great if a slab could protect from physical damage, from chemical damage, right, in terms of the breakdown of the paper, and certainly from UV, which is as damaging as some of the other things that I just mentioned. Superior slabs. Say it with me. The third thing that I've identified is responsive and helpful customer service. Now, in my opinion, that takes the form of a couple of things. It takes the form of a friendly website that makes it easy for you to get in touch with people. It also takes the form of people that are answering the phones, answering the emails, supporting live chat, whatever it is. Customer service is important. Customer service, in my opinion, is what makes for a good experience or a really bad experience. There is nothing worse than trying to call someone and not being able to get them on the phone. There is nothing worse than sending an email to someone and not getting a response, especially when you are paying money for a service. And it doesn't matter how much money, if someone is in a service role, responsiveness, helpfulness, in my opinion, are very important. The fourth thing on my list is turnaround times. And it kind of goes with the aforementioned helpful, responsive customer service. But turnaround times are important. It isn't as important as some of the other things that I mentioned, to be honest with you, right? But I think turnaround times are important because it goes to the customer service part. If I am giving you money and in exchange for that money, you are performing a service. And as part of that service, you are saying it will take me X amount of time. You should do your role, your part, in X amount of time. It shouldn't be X plus, this factor or that factor because of these things. It should be, this is the time frame in which you said you can perform this service, so do it and then give my book back. I've heard horror stories where people have been waiting 5, 6 months for a book. That's a bit much, especially when you have choices in the market, right? You have a couple of choices and you should not have to wait when the expectation is not 6 months. If someone says, I'm going to do this job and I'm going to take 6 months, then take 6 months. That's cool. But don't say you're going to do it in 4 months and then it take 6 months. That's kind of unacceptable, especially when you don't return people's emails or phone calls or whatever it happens to be. So turnaround times are important. So the last thing on my list is signature verification. To me, it's the fifth thing on the list because it's not as important as the others, but I think that it is an important differentiator. When you look at what CBCS is doing in terms of verifying signatures, that is part of what almost got me to go with CBCS, is the fact that they could verify signatures. I have tons of books in my collection that are signed, that I had signed when I was a kid. I would love to be able to send those books in, have them be graded based upon the condition of the book, and to have the signature on that book be acknowledged and verified and reflected on the label that the book is given. To me, that is a big differentiator. Not as important as some of the other things, which is why it's fifth on the list, but it is an important differentiator in my mind. All right, so there you have it. Those are my 5 things that would make for a solid grading company. The question is, does my list look like your list? Let me know in the comment section where we align and where we're different. Let's have a discussion. As always, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you enjoyed it.